Good evening, you're watching this Mongolian World. I'm your host, Anna Batr. And for top stories, opening ceremony for the Chinggis Khaan Museum was held. Speaker of the Senate of Canada, George J. Furey, is paying an official visit to Mongolia on October 9th through 13th. Opal, a sarcastic melodrama, was performed at the Hun Theatre with simultaneous English interpretation. And for the news, stay tuned. Three years ago, in 2019, a government resolution was issued to build the Chinggis Khaan Museum in Ulaanbaatar city at the location of the Mongolian Natural History Museum. On Tuesday, the opening ceremony for Mongolia's largest museum was held and was attended by the President of Mongolia, Hun Theatre.
This year marks the 860th anniversary of the birth of Chinggis Khan. The opening ceremony included a procession of the 9 white banners, a symbol of the power, independence, and unity of Mongolian statehood. The 9-story museum has over 11,000 artifacts displaying the history of Mongolia in a comprehensive way. The exhibits cover important periods such as the time of the Hun Empire, the Yuan dynasty, and Mongolia in the 20th century. The artifacts on display are only about 8% of all artifacts and historical objects in the care of the Institute of Science and other museums in Ulaanbaatar and the provinces. The museum's administrators highlight that 93% of the collection is authentic, and the rest are replicas of artifacts currently in foreign museums. The museum's halls cover 20,000 square meters, and the exhibit halls are on the 3rd through 6th floors.
This year marks the 860th anniversary of the birth of the great Chinggis Khan. International historians and researchers have emphasized his historical merits and achievements. We should develop and promote the Chinggis Khaan Museum to become an internationally recognized research center. On behalf of the people of Mongolia, we sincerely congratulate all those who have participated and worked diligently on the construction of this museum, which will be written clearly in the history of Mongolia. Let's pray that the glory of the great kings will be echoed around the world. The Chinggis Khaan Museum, which has been the dream of the Mongolian people for centuries, is officially open.
Chinggis Khan was one of the most famous conquerors in history. He consolidated tribes to create a unified Mongolia, and then expanded his empire across Asia to Adriatic Sea. The museum displays many interesting artifacts from the Hun era, like the armor of ancient warriors, the headpieces of queens, beautifully detailed garments of the Yuan dynasty, and well-preserved blue and white porcelain pieces. The museum entrance fee ranges from 30,000 Mongolian tugrks for adults to 20,000 MNT for group rates. Children under 18 years old can visit the museum free of charge.
At the invitation of Speaker of Parliament, Hun Theatre, Speaker of the Senate of Canada, George J. Furey, is paying an official visit to Mongolia on October 9th through 13th. Following the welcome ceremony at the Central Square today, Speaker Hun Theatre and Speaker of the Senate of Canada, George J. Furey, paid their respect to the statue of Chinggis Khan. Then Mr. George J. Furey signed the Book of Honored Guests at the State House.
He held bilateral talks with the Mongolian speaker on the further expansion of Mongolia-Canada relations and cooperation. At the outset, the two sides reaffirmed their commitments to further expanding Mongolia-Canada friendly relations and cooperation, and underscored that the relations between the two countries are developing based on the common values of democracy, human rights, and freedom. Speaker George J. Furey emphasized that he highly commends Mongolia's experience of strengthening democratic governance that values human rights and freedom regardless of being landlocked and situated between the two powerful neighbors, while expressing commitment to putting substantial efforts to intensify bilateral cooperation. He also highlighted the significance of increasing the frequency of high-level political dialogues. The Canadian speaker will also become acquainted with the operation of Ayutthaya and visit a nomadic family. Speaker of the Senate of Canada George J. Furey on October 10th paid a courtesy call on President of Mongolia Hun Theatre At the outset of the meeting, President of Mongolia Khurelsukh expressed satisfaction with the successful development of bilateral relations in the political, economic, and other spheres and asked to pay attention to facilitating the issuance of visas to citizens of Mongolia to travel to Canada. George J. Furey, Speaker of the Senate of Canada, stressed that his visit on the eve of the 50th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between the two countries is an important contribution to advancing the goal of bringing relations to a comprehensive partnership, stimulating cooperation between the highest legislative bodies and enriching them with new content. Highlighting the wide opportunities for developing relations in many areas such as agriculture, construction, energy, and mining, he noted that he is on a visit to enhance cooperation between legislative bodies and deepen bilateral partnerships and ties between citizens. During the meeting, the parties exchanged views on some issues of cooperation. In particular, they discussed cooperation within the framework of the 1 Billion Trees National Movement and the President's Scholarship Program.
Thank you for staying with us. Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. October 10th was the International Night at the Hun Theatre with the presentation of Opal, a play by the American writer John Patrick, and the Mongolian Orpheum Theatre production. This night's performance included simultaneous English translations with listening devices read by professional actors.
This play, which is a famous Broadway theater production, is directed by stage director Batbot, who successfully staged the plays Faust and Crime and Punishment last year with lots of public fanfare and sensation. With this production, Orpheum Theatre aims to spread feelings of kindness, hope, and optimism that we sometimes find lacking in our daily lives and society. Being different from Batbot's previous productions in terms of tone and content, Opal is performed in a relatively small space for smaller audiences and in a more intimate experience.
The main message of this play is that love conquers all, forgiveness conquers all. You need to be patient and fight for love. This play was staged many times by directors of different countries. Everyone had their own interpretation and their own angle of view. When it comes to us, we want to convey the main message. How to use staging and setting to connect and edit at different scenes, how to use staging in a sarcastic manner, and we had many things to learn and many things to explore. We wanted to express sarcasm through staging and decoration, through actors' play, through music. Then we wanted to connect this genre with melodrama and see what kind of emotions this mix might trigger.
As this evening's play included simultaneous translation, many foreign viewers were watching the sarcastic drama and some of them shared their impressions with us.
I would tell you it's a very good play and the actors are playing very good. And I think that you could be proud having such good actors because they are playing very good.
The play Everybody Loves Opal was written in 1960 and performed at the Long Acre Theatre in New York City in October 1961. Since then, it has been staged in theaters around the world as well as on Broadway. John Patrick is known not only for various plays, but he also is the accredited screenwriter for numerous Hollywood films, and he has written 38 theater plays as well as 27 screenplays during his lifetime. Everybody Loves Opal is his most famous play. The play will be staged daily at the Hun Theatre for more than a month, and tickets can be purchased via the ticket.mn website.
There are 147,000 university students that are studying in Mongolia. More than 60% of these students are female students, but professionals say that this ratio has stabilized in recent years. We talked with one of the students from the Mongolian University of Life Sciences that is considered as a university with the most male students in the country.
In our country, there is only one school that prepares veterinarians. More than 80% of all students at the veterinary school of the Mongolian University of Life Sciences are male students. It can be called the university with the largest number of male students in the country. One of them, the son of a herdsman who grew up in the countryside. His name is Tuxcharal. He didn't hide the fact that he was stereotyped because he was a boy, so he should herd animals. However, he decided to study veterinary medicine based upon his passion.
For example, in our community, boys mostly stay in rural areas and girls are preferring to live in urban areas. During the cold winter and windy spring storm seasons, only boys go back to the countryside to help with the animals. Girls not often do that.
The reason why men choose the profession of veterinary medicine is often explained by the nature of the work. Tuxcharal was giving the opposite answer. He said that there is no profession specifically suitable for men or women, and noted that it is important to choose the profession you want.
You should choose your profession based on your own interests, not on the persuasion of others.
Over 80 years, the veterinary school has trained more than 6,000 specialists, but gender ratio was different. For example, before 1990, more than 70% of all graduates were men. After 1990, more than 80% of all students were women, but more than 80% of students graduating in the last 10 years were men. Young people have started to pay more attention to their own interests rather than their parents' interest. We do surveys with students, and when we conduct a survey to see if they joined because of the initiatives of relatives or friends, or if they follow their own interest, results indicate that most students join based upon their own interests. In 2022, a total of 147,000 students are studying at the university. 61.1% of them are female students and 38.9% are male students. In other words, the number of female students per 100 male students increased by 3%, up to 157. Among students studying in education sector, 83.7% are female students. 82.1% of students of medical schools are female students as well, while 76.3% of students in IT and communication sectors and 72.7% in the construction schools are male students.
The ratio of students entering university is 60-40. However, the number of female entrants is higher in the fields of education and health.
Over the last 5 years, the gender ratio of students studying at universities has been relatively stable, because the industry believes that children are maturing to choose their careers based on the characteristics and demands of their careers.
Here's the international news from our partner agencies. The UN General Assembly was set to debate Monday on whether to demand that Russia reverse course on annexing 4 regions of Ukraine, but the discussion came as Moscow's most extensive missile strikes in months alarmed much of the international community anew.
The assembly meeting planned before Monday's barrage was intended to respond to Russia's purported absorption last month of Ukraine's Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporozhye regions. The move followed Kremlin-orchestrated referendums that the Ukrainian government and the West have dismissed as illegitimate.
Today, terrorist Russia shelled the capital city of Kiev and many other Ukrainian cities throughout the country, with at least 84 missiles and 24 UAVs. Energy facilities, residential buildings, schools and universities, museums, and crossroads in the city centers were among the targets that the Russian Defense Ministry later declared legitimate. The entire world has once again seen the true face of the terrorist state that kills our people. Suffering defeats on the battlefield, Russia takes it out on the peaceful residents of Ukrainian cities. Today's strike killed at least 14 civilians and 97 were wounded.
Several explosions rocked Ukraine's capital city Kyiv on Monday morning amid a large-scale attack launched by Russia in retaliation for a deadly blast on the Crimean Bridge. At least 8 people were killed and 24 others injured in a series of missile strikes on the city. Rostislav Smirnov, an advisor to the Ukrainian Minister of Internal Affairs, has said, "Subway services in Kyiv was suspended and all stations are open to the public as shelters, according to Mayor Vitaly Klitschko. Nationwide, at least 11 key infrastructure facilities in 8 Ukrainian regions have been damaged in Russia's missile attacks, according to Ukrainian Prime Minister Denis Shmyhal. As of 11 a.m. local time, several Ukrainian regions were left without electricity, Shmyhal said on Telegram. He instructed Ukrainians to prepare for temporary interruptions to water and electricity supplies and possible issues with communication services.
Deliberate targeting of civilians is a war crime. By launching missile attacks on civilians, sleeping in their homes or rushing to work, children going to schools, Russia has proven once again that it is a terrorist state that must be deterred in the strongest possible ways. A trail of blood is left behind the Russian delegation when it enters the General Assembly. And the hall is filled up with the smell of smoldering human flesh. That's what we have tolerated too long in Syria. That's what is happening today in Ukraine.
The United Nations is condemning Russia's retaliation against Ukraine Monday, following a lethal barrage against multiple cities, resulting in numerous civilian casualties.
Now let's take a look at our regular feature on sports. China defeated Germany 3-0 in Chengdu on Sunday to win the men's team world title for a record-extending 22nd time, a day after the women's team also triumphed. Host China triumphed in the men's team final at the 2022 World Team Table Tennis Championships finals in Chengdu on Sunday, October 9th, with a 3-0 victory over second seeds Germany. Han Jindong, Ma Long and Wang Chuqin combined to win 9 of 10 games in their straight rubber victories over the European champions to retain the Swiftling Cup, the sport's oldest trophy. The Chinese women's team also won their corresponding final a day earlier, beating Japan 3-0 to clinch a Korbilon Cup. Chen Ming, Wang Manyu and Sung Yingsha all contributed wins as China became women's team champions for the 22nd time, the same number of titles the men will now have. China had been made to work to get to the men's final by Japan, who pushed them all the way in a 3-2 semi-final and were looking to reassert their dominance. They did it in fine fashion with world number 1 Fan, Olympic champion Ma, and the youngster Wang all providing comfortable wins against their opponents. Bronze shared between the losing semi-finalists was won by Japan and South Korea. Women's bronze medals went to Germany and Chinese Taipei. Here's the weather forecast of world's major cities. Well, that's all for today and thank you for staying with us. We'll see you tomorrow with more news and updates. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.